Hey there, amazing people. Welcome back. Your seat in the cinema of stories is ready. The story begins with Aubrey Parker, who has come to attend the funeral of her closest friend, Grace. Grace's death had left her completely shattered, as they had shared many wonderful moments together. Soon after, she starts experiencing strange visions, in which she sees the man she once grew close to by the seaside. Troubled by these recurring visions, she decides to leave. On her way, some people give her strange looks, but Aubrey ignores them and keeps walking. That's when she meets Grace's cousin, Alice, who tells her that Grace might have left something for her before she died. Something only Aubrey could understand. However, at that moment, Aubrey has no idea what it could mean. Aubrey, lost in thoughts of Grace, heads straight to her restaurant. She knocks down the key inside the gate with a stick, picks it up, and unlocks the door to go in. The moment she steps inside, memories of Grace grow stronger. Every moment they had shared their flashes before her eyes. She makes herself a drink and begins talking as if Grace were still sitting beside her. Then she feeds the fish in the tank and walks over to the telescope. It was pointed at a neighbor's apartment window. Seeing this makes her laugh, because Grace always loved watching her neighbors. After that, Aubrey goes to Grace's apartment. Lying down on the bed, she drifts back into thoughts of Grace. Suddenly, her eyes fall on the radio on the table, which was giving off strange sounds, almost as if someone was trying to talk to her. Aubrey picks up the radio microphone and tries to talk to the mysterious voice, but the sound still isn't clear. Annoyed, she turns off the light and tries to sleep, yet it feels as if Grace is lying right next to her. Scared, she shifts to the couch and calls her mother. Since they hadn't spoken in a long time, her mother asks her to come home. But because there's no network in Grace's room, the call gets disconnected. At that moment, Edward suddenly comes to her mind. She notices Edward sitting in the room. Gathering courage, she calls out his name, and as soon as Edward lifts his face, Aubrey shivers in fear. There was a deep wound on his face, making him look terrifying. But it was all just a dream. When Aubrey wakes up, she finds that the heater in her house has mysteriously stopped working. Aubrey looked out the window. Snow was falling, but the strange thing was that not a single person could be seen in the entire town, a place that was usually full of life. In the distance, smoke was rising from the forest, yet she couldn't understand what was really happening. She tried turning on the TV, but it wouldn't work. She thought maybe the bad weather had caused a power cut, but even her phone had no signal. Seeing this, Aubrey started to panic. She quickly put on her jacket and stepped outside. From the restaurant's gate, she tried to make sense of the situation. At first, everything seemed normal, but the moment she shut the door, a frightened man suddenly began banging on the gate, as if he was trying to warn her about some danger. The very next moment, he ran away in fear. But then Aubrey follows him, and after walking a little further, that person suddenly disappears. Right then, she notices black smoke coming out of two houses. On the road, many cars are lying in a terrible condition, surrounded by a lot of blood. Seeing all this, Aubrey is completely confused. Suddenly, a strange and terrifying monster appears in front of her eyes, one that had already killed many people. Terrified, Aubrey runs back toward the restaurant, and some people in a nearby house watch her as she escapes. Somehow, she manages to get inside the restaurant, but the monster is still chasing her. It stands outside the restaurant, and out of fear, Aubrey hides behind a table, waiting for it to leave. However, the monster does not go away and instead keeps attacking the gate, trying to break in. Aubrey becomes extremely frightened. Suddenly, Aubrey hears a voice, coming from the radio. The most shocking part was that the stranger already knew her name. The voice tells Aubrey that if she wants to survive, she must close her eyes and turn the radio toward the gate. Terrified, Aubrey does exactly what he says. But since the gate is far away, the tune from the radio doesn't reach the monster. Then the voice urges her to gather courage and move closer to the gate. Shaking with fear, Aubrey slowly walks toward it, keeping her eyes tightly shut. Just then, the strange melody echoes all around, and to her relief, the monster actually runs away. Crying, Aubrey collapses to her knees, but the voice warns her that the danger isn't over yet. It advises her to go upstairs quickly and lock the room. Without hesitation, Aubrey rushes upstairs and then tries to find out more about this mysterious person behind the voice. After listening to the man, Aubrey begins to feel as if he already knows a lot about her. Then he reveals that he is actually Grace's friend. Grace, along with him and a few others, had made a dangerous discovery. She had hidden a part of it in her house, believing that one day Aubrey would come there and, in a time of danger, it would help her. But for Aubrey, all of this sounded confusing, so she asked him how he managed to drive away that monster. The man explained that he had used a special tune, the very same tune that Grace and her team had discovered. That melody had the power to open pathways to other worlds, and it was through one of those passages that the monster had arrived. To banish it, he had used that mysterious tune again. Just then, as Aubrey looked out of the window, she noticed a few more people struggling to escape from the creature. She immediately told the stranger what she had seen. But that man couldn't help those people, so he only told Aubrey to stay quiet. Aubrey began crying silently, and after a while, the man stopped talking to her too. Seeing this, Aubrey became deeply frightened. She started to feel as if she might already be dead, and all of this was happening to her in hell. Just then, her eyes fell on an envelope lying nearby. Her name was written on it in Grace's handwriting. With trembling hands, Aubrey opened the envelope, and inside she found a radio cassette and a note. The note read, "This cassette will save the world." As soon as Aubrey played the cassette, Grace's voice echoed from it. Grace explained that she had been working with some people on radio signals. During their research, they had discovered mysterious melodies that, when combined, could open doors to other worlds. They had already found several of these melodies, but the seventh one had gone missing. Grace searched everywhere for it, but it was never found. Grace always feared that if the melody fell into the wrong hands, it could change the entire human world. That's why she hid all the tunes in different places, the same spots where she and Aubrey often went together. After explaining this on the cassette, a strange tune suddenly starts playing, and shockingly, Aubrey finds herself standing in a forest. There, she hears the roar of the same monster. Panicking, she picks up a stone, but the tune stops all of a sudden, and in the very next moment, Aubrey is back in Grace's house. Meanwhile, she accidentally breaks a map hanging on the wall. Behind it was a hidden basement filled with Grace's diaries. Just as Aubrey begins to read them, the same mysterious voice comes again from the radio. This time, he introduces himself as Alfred. He tells Aubrey that she must now find all the melodies and use them very carefully, because it was one of those tunes that brought the monster into this world. And if even the slightest mistake is made, another door will open. Alfred warned that if the melodies were not used correctly, even more dangerous monsters could enter this world and wipe out humanity completely. By then, more than half the people were already dead, and the few survivors were hiding inside their homes. All Alfred knew was that these melodies had been sent as signals for centuries by a highly advanced species. Grace had discovered them, and perhaps their true purpose was for someone to play the notes in the right sequence, so the monsters would return to their own world. Alfred wanted Aubrey to finish Grace's unfinished work, but Aubrey was terrified and unwilling to step outside. She turned off the radio and began gathering food, water, and supplies from Grace's house. As time passed, loneliness and fear started breaking her from within. She grew irritable and restless. At one point, she even tried to end her life, but couldn't do it. Feeling helpless, she lay on the bed, wondering what she should do next. Aubrey kept wondering how she would gather the courage to step outside and make things right. Slowly, she began to experience strange hallucinations. Once, she even thought the monster was standing right above her. Terrified, she started punching it, but when she came back to her senses, she realized she had only been hitting the wall. After a few days, all the food in the house was gone, and even the water was almost finished. Now Aubrey had only two choices: either stay hidden inside the house and die of hunger and thirst, or find the strength to go out and search for something to survive. She began talking endlessly to Grace's turtle as if she were losing her mind, but eventually, she decided to step outside. Fully prepared, she left the house, taking the turtle, the radio, and some batteries with her, so that if she encountered the monster on the way, she could play music to drive it away. Moving slowly, she reached the same house where she had once felt the presence of someone inside. Aubrey looks toward the window of the house where she had earlier seen a shadow, but now no one was there, only bloodstains smeared across the walls. Terrified, she rushes straight to a supermarket. Her first instinct is to gather food and supplies, and while doing so, she remembers that she had visited this place many times before with Grace. She walks to the same section where they often shop together. After searching for a while, she actually finds cassette number 3. Just as she is about to leave with it, Her eyes fall on bloodstains scattered across the floor. Following the trail, she reaches a freezer. Inside lies a man's decayed body, clearly dead for many days. Frightened, Aubrey runs out of the supermarket. On the way, she notices a strange pole that hadn't been there before. But at that moment, she ignores it and keeps moving. A little further, she sees broken houses and abandoned cars. Suddenly, the terrifying roar of a monster echoes nearby. Startled, Aubrey quickly hides behind a car. Aubrey can't hold herself together for long and, out of fear, she starts running away. While escaping, her radio falls, which draws the monster even closer. Panicking, Aubrey quickly picks it up, hides inside a car, and plays the tune. Hearing the music, the monster moves away from her. But then, Aubrey begins to experience a strange illusion. She feels as if she has entered a cartoon-like world. Yet the same monster is still chasing her there. To escape, she sits near a car, but suddenly she sees Edward. Even in that world, Edward's face has a deep wound. Terrified, Aubrey starts trembling again. All of a sudden, she feels like she's drowning in the ocean, with huge monsters trying to drag her down. But as the illusion fades, she realizes she is actually lying under a car. By then, the monster had already gone. Catching her breath, Aubrey quickly gathers her belongings. After finding the fourth tape under the theater seat, Aubrey stepped outside but suddenly froze. In front of her stood the shadow of a massive, glowing monster. Her eyes widened in shock, and she held her breath, hiding quietly in a corner until she was sure it was safe to leave. A little later, she slowly moved away and headed toward the nearby library. By then, the night had completely fallen. She tried hard to open the door, but it wouldn't budge. Finally, with all her strength, she forced it open and went inside. Surrounded by darkness, the only thing guiding her was the flashlight in her hand. Aubrey let out a sigh of relief until the light suddenly went out. Panicking, she tried to switch on another one, and as soon as the beam lit up, a new monster appeared before her. This one looked nothing like the creatures she had seen before. Its body was twisted in strange ways, and the most terrifying thing of all was, it couldn't even see her. Aubrey picked up the tape marked with the number 5 and paused for a moment. In the silence of the study room, memories came rushing back. Those days when she and Grace would spend hours lost in books. A sweet ache stirred in her heart. That night, exhausted, she fell asleep right there. In her dream, Grace appeared before her, eyes glowing as she asked, "Have you been able to move on from your past, Aubrey?" Aubrey's breath caught. Regret filled her eyes, the weight of a terrible mistake pressing heavily on her chest. In a trembling voice, she whispered, "Maybe I'll never be free from that regret." Grace gently took her hand and said, "You must forgive yourself. Otherwise, this mistake will keep you trapped forever." When the dream faded, Aubrey sat among the pile of books. Slowly, she played the tape's melody and closed her eyes, as if trying to drift into another world. At first, everything seemed ordinary, but soon the air in the room began to change. A chill brushed against her cheeks, and then, the books began to rise into the air on their own. Pages fluttered wildly, as though seized by an invisible force. Aubrey's heartbeat quickened, but instead of focusing on it, she slips back into meditation. During this, she keeps imagining herself in different places. At first, Aubrey finds it a little strange, but slowly she starts enjoying it. Then suddenly, she hears a strange sound coming from the library. Following it, she walks a little further and sees that a movie called Starfish is being filmed there, where she herself is the main actress. Seeing herself like this, Aubrey quickly hides nearby and realizes that by listening to those tapes, she has stepped into another reality where she is an actress. This frightens her, and in that moment she suddenly returns to her real world, where she screams loudly, releasing her emotions, and goes back into meditation. As she continues listening to the remaining tunes, she finds herself transported to different places again. But when she hears the final one, she is suddenly taken to a moment by the sea, where she is about to get intimate with a man. She tries to change that moment, but no matter how much she wants to, she can't. Then, she sees Edward sitting by the shore, looking very sad, with his face completely normal this time. Aubrey goes to him, and the first thing she does is apologize. During their conversation, the truth comes out that Edward was actually Aubrey's fiancé, but she had betrayed him by being with another man by the sea. When Edward discovered this, he was so deeply shocked that he took his own life with a shotgun. This became the biggest mistake of Aubrey's life, one she could never forget. However, this time, after apologizing to Edward, she pushes that man into the sea. Suddenly, her eyes open in the library, where she spends a while talking to a turtle. Since she had finally accepted her mistake, she feels lighter and better than ever before. With this sense of peace, she moves forward on her next journey, setting out to find the remaining tapes. On the way, she once again came face to face with a monster. Aubrey was about to play the tune to drive it away, but suddenly she stopped. This time, she didn't feel any fear of the creature, and because of that, the monster left on its own. In the morning, Aubrey returned to Grace's grave and then went to the nearby radio station where she used to work. On the wall, she saw a picture of herself with one of her colleagues. Behind that photo, she found the sixth and final cassette. Earlier, she had already discovered 2 cassettes at Grace's house. When she arranged all the tapes in the right order and started playing them, and the last one ended, she tried to talk to Alfeth. But instead of his voice, she heard someone else. The voice told her that Aubrey had made a huge mistake. She had played the tunes in the wrong sequence. Because of this, instead of closing the portal to the other world, she had accidentally opened a doorway to an entirely new world. By then, the monsters from that place had also started entering this world. Hearing this, Aubrey became very scared and quickly began checking all the cassettes again. This time, she noticed that each cassette had a label on it, saying, "Forget" and "Forgive." The boy told Aubrey that she needed to follow these signs. But instead, Aubrey left the radio and the cassettes behind, stepped outside, and started moving toward the doorway to the other world. As soon as she entered the doorway, she was caught in a whirlwind, and moments she had spent with Edward began flashing before her eyes. This showed that she still hadn't truly forgiven herself. In reality, it was all a story inside Aubrey's mind, because before her friend's death, she had betrayed her husband Edward. But after Edward died, she completely broke down. Edward had taken his own life by shooting himself in the face with a shotgun, which is why he always appeared to Aubrey in a terrifying form. And because of that, she couldn't meet Grace for a long time. But during that period, Grace was diagnosed with cancer, something Aubrey never came to know. Later, Grace passed away due to cancer, and this pushed Aubrey into even deeper guilt. Afterwards, when she started visiting Grace's restaurant, she found a little peace there. However, she completely stopped going outside. She began to feel as if monsters were roaming in the outside world, ready to kill her the moment they saw her. But in reality, those monsters were nothing more than her own fears, appearing before her again and again in that form. When Aubrey finally stopped running from her fear, the monsters couldn't harm her even when they appeared. And when she accepted her mistakes and, in a dream, drowned that man in the sea, her heart started to feel lighter, and she experienced relief. But with time, her fear once again took control of her, dragging her back into the same guilt. She began to recall the moments spent with Grace, even though the truth was that the world she was living in existed only in her mind. That's the end of today's movie explanation. Thanks for watching Story Rush, your home for unforgettable stories. See you in the next one.